Okay, I've just done the first print on my new Epson 17-inch roll printer, the Color 5070 in Australia, or overseas it's the Color 5000. Um, Created over the last couple of days a few printer profiles to go for the printer, and tonight was my first print, so I'll show you what the image was that I used. It's quite a saturated image. The image is stored in Lightroom and saved as a TIFF in the ProPhoto color space. That's because my printer and the profile with the paper that he uses can exceed the colors of AdobeRGB, and I'll show you what I mean. So I'm not sure how this is going to display. This is quite highly saturated, this image. So I've got a program I use called ColorThink Pro, and what that does, if I click it here, this shows the color values in the LAB color space, individual color values, and you can see there's a lot of yellows, oranges, some greens, some reds, not so much in the blue and the purple. So what this graph is showing us is this is the light colors. Down the bottom it's the dark colors. So this is the luminosity scale, so all the way up to white, pure white and pure black. And then as we look down on it, you can see blue, red, yellow and green channels, and so these points, each dot represents a color value in the image, and it gives you a 3D graph of the colors in that image. Now I'll superimpose on top of that the AdobeRGB color space, and it'll take a minute for it to catch up. And what you'll be able to see in the pair of them is how much of this image is actually displayed outside of the color space. So you can see there's a lot of oranges outside of the capability of AdobeRGB, so all of those colors would just be cut off. You can see there's colors down there in the blue area which exceed, and you've got some reds in the image as well which exceed the boundaries of the AdobeRGB color space. So that's the image compared to the color space of AdobeRGB. But I'll bring in the profile for the paper that I've used now. And this wireframe diagram, all of this, it shows the capabilities of the paper and the ink on the Epson Color 5000 to exceed the capability of AdobeRGB. So it's quite substantial, the amount of information that's displayed outside, and this gives you an idea how much color is lost if you use AdobeRGB for images. So I prefer to use all that color if I can, and so that's why all of my photos are stored in the ProPhoto color space, because anything in there is color that's just thrown away. So now I'm going to turn off the profile. I'll bring in the image. It just takes a minute for it to catch up. There we go. Now you can see in the wireframe diagram there's still stuff in the image which is outside what the paper can print, but this is a lot better than if I'd used AdobeRGB. So if I turn this profile, and I'll make that, instead of a wireframe, I'll make it a smooth, and when it catches up, then it'll show you much better representation of all of the colors that are outside that color space. So all of those yellows are still lost to the printer. Those reds and oranges are still lost, but it's even so it's still better than Adobe RGB. Now, because of these yellows being so far out, this is a good opportunity where I would use the perceptual rendering intent for a printer. If there's only a few dots just outside, I just use relative and just run with it, but there's so much information which is outside, perceptual will push it all in. So there you go, that's the capabilities of the printer. It can certainly do a good job with this particular paper. This is the Hanimal Berida FB 350 grams, 350 GSM rather paper, and quite a nice printer, quite a nice paper, good ink combination. And this does a lot better than my Epson 3880. It's got a lot bigger gamut. Anyway, I hope that was useful for you. Catch you later. Bye.